Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's awesome guest is sleep expert Devin Burke. He is the best-selling author of The Sleep Advantage and has helped thousands of people to improve their sleep, which improves their energy and their entire life. His approach is completely unique and you'll never guess what he uses to help people sleep better. We had a great conversation. He's a definite high energy guy, one of the top health coaches in the nation, and he even has a TEDx show. So I can't wait for you to meet him. Let's go and say hello to Devin. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhite, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Everyone's always asking me what products do I personally take in form of supplements. And since we know that gut health is very important, let's talk about that first. So every morning when I wake up and brush my teeth, I take a product by Optimizers called Apex. And it is a great product that helps you get into fat burning mode. So if you're just starting off on keto, it's a great enzyme to metabolize fat. Or if you want to use it as a pre-workout to kick your body into fat burning mode, it is fabulous. Next up, after every meal, I take 2 Masszymes and 1 P3OM probiotic. So enzymes help you digest and metabolize your food. The probiotics add healthy, good gut bacteria, and it's a really good synergistic compound. And then if my stomach is feeling a little acidic, which it rarely does, but if it does, if I ever feel a little like acidity, I take the HCl Breakthrough, which adds a little bit of hydrochloric acid to help with your digestion process. So the little valve in between your esophagus and your stomach can close and your body can churn and start digesting. And last but not least, I love their magnesium Breakthrough. And here is why. I take 2 capsules before bed. It is a combo of magnesium chelate, bisglycinate, malate, orotate, taurate, citrate. It's just a big old magnesium blend. It also has manganese and B6. And let me tell you, I score in the 90s on my Oura Ring every single night. So I love Optimizers products. Using the code HIGHENERGY20 will save you 20% off of any of the products from their website. That is BI Optimizers, OPTIMZERS.com/high energy. Discount code is all caps, high energy 20. Hey, Devin, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Tracy. I'm excited to speak with you.
Well, I am excited to speak with you as well, because I feel like in our world, our modern world, sleep is underrated. And a little birdie told me that you are a sleep expert.
That birdie was correct. And and you're right. It is a massive, massive challenge for people today, especially now with what's going on in the world. Now, more people than ever are having issues with their sleep. So it's definitely a hot topic to talk about.
Yeah, I look forward to dissecting that with you. But in the meantime, or just to kick us off, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Oh my gosh. Well, personally or professionally?
Well, why did you start with how about where you're from and why sleep?
Yeah. Okay. So originally I grew up outside of Philadelphia in a small farm town. I've been living in South Florida for the last 15 years, but we help support people all over the country at Sleep Science Academy that have sleep issues. And why sleep? It was really out of, one, it was out of a need. Somebody that I was working with before I got into sleep, I was doing a lot of high performance coaching for a lot of business entrepreneurs, people that run companies. and someone had issues with their sleep. And so I looked into what was available and found that there wasn't much available for people that have issues with sleep, sleeping pills. And then I stumbled on CBTI, which is a specific cognitive behavioral therapy for people with insomnia. And so that was interesting to me. And so I looked into it, and the more I looked into it, the more I realized that not only is it a massive problem, there's not a lot of good solutions. And I said, let me keep learning about this. That piqued my interest. And so long story short, I started to study it. I was able to help this one person. And, you know, if you can help one person, you can help thousands or millions of people. And we're not helping millions of people yet, but we're up to, you know, thousands, with the methodology that I discovered and sort of execute with people that have these issues now.
So working, like when you started this process with this one client, did you sleep well at that time?
Yeah. So, you know, I'm actually blessed. I am an incredible sleeper, which is a bit ironic. Sleep is sort of like a superpower for me, so much so that my family used to joke around and tell me, oh, you know, Devin's narcoleptic, because I literally, it's a real gift. So it wasn't out of my own struggle or my own pain. It was actually out of someone else's. And then I'm just a very curious person. And, you know, if something kind of catches me, I usually really go deep into whatever that thing is. And especially if it's something that, number one, can have an impact in my own life, but also if there's a big need or a big problem, and that problem is not being met, or at least met in the way that I think that it could be met, then I get really even more interested in, you know, how can I add value, or how can I help, you know, solve this problem. And that's really what set me on this sort of journey over the last, I guess it's been about almost 5.5 years, studying sleep and helping thousands of people with sleep.
Well, here's an interesting thought I just had, is that the root cause of poor sleep is different amongst different individuals, right? So would the solution therefore also be a little bit different?
You know, that's a great question. And what I found is actually, no. I mean, it depends. So for most people don't realize that, yeah, obviously, if you have a physical issue that's creating sleep issues, that's different. So if you have, let's say, you know, a neurological disease or a brain tumor, God forbid, or, you know, a thyroid issue that's really just throwing your body off, you know, those things are absolutely physical causes that could create issues with sleep. But most people, there really isn't a primary physical issue that's creating the sleep. It's actually learned. And for people in that bucket, which is the vast majority of people that I find, there is a process and a system that can help them unlearn that. And so it's interesting, but most people, they overestimate they think that it's primarily just a physical issue why they're not sleeping, but in most cases it's more of a psychological issue that becomes physical. And so you have to address the mind and the body, because the body follows the mind. And so if you don't understand what's creating stressful hormones to be released at a certain time, and then that gets anchored into a pattern, and kind of process that and unpack that, then it can become an ongoing problem for, in some cases, decades, for people. And even after they treat it or they address it on the purely physical level, they still have this challenge until they really understand how the mind plays into the body and the body plays into the mind. And that's really what we help people do in our academy.
I think that I can kind of relate to that a little bit. Like when I had babies, you know, gosh, my oldest is almost 29. But knowing that they weren't going to sleep at night when you bring them home from the hospital, I had anxiety over that, because
Yes.
I just knew what I was up for. Is that kind of like what you're meaning about people who create this mental stress over sleep?
Yes, absolutely. So let me just kind of explain how most people get stuck with sleep. So there's an event that happens. Now, that event could be you have children. That event could be a divorce. That event could be a job loss, loss of a loved one, some type of loss. That could be, it could just be you're traveling and you're crossing time zones and you have an issue, you have one night or maybe 2 nights or 3 nights of poor sleep. Then what happens is, okay, you feel the effects of that and you say, oh, I need to solve this. So most people go on the internet, they start looking up, well, how do I sleep better? Or they call their doctor and the doctor prescribes them sleeping pills, which are a temporary Band-Aid solution. And if these don't work or if they stop working, then people start to develop this anxiety, this anticipatory anxiety about sleep. And then maybe they start to do some sleep hygiene, like the room cold and dark and a bedtime routine. And when those things don't help, now they start to really get anxious about it because like, well, I'm doing everything my doctor's telling me to do. I'm doing all the things that I'm reading online that are supposed to help, and I'm still not sleeping. So there must be something physically wrong with me. And so this creates this fight or flight response. Usually it's subconscious. It's not in most people's awareness, that then can become a pattern within the body where at a certain time, sometimes it's in the middle of the night, sometimes it's leading up to bed, the body starts to release cortisol and adrenaline and noradrenaline, all these hormones that really are not meant to be released at that time, that then keep us up. And this becomes almost like a performance anxiety for sleep. That's where most people find themselves. And then it becomes even trickier because sleep is the one thing that the harder you try to make happen, the harder you try to force or control it, the worse it gets. Even if those things that you're doing are positive, healthy things, such as a meditation or, some sleep hygiene or something like that, those things are amazing for sleep quality, but they're not addressing the thoughts and the beliefs that are anchoring this physical pattern that people find themselves in. And there's a term, it's called psychophysiological insomnia. Most people have never heard of that. Most people that struggle with their sleep have some version of that. And until that's really understood, people continue to unfortunately have, poor sleep unnecessarily, really.
Interesting. So it's not like they're broken. They just get caught in a loop.
They get caught in a loop and they unfortunately start to believe that they're broken. And then they start to talk about it. It becomes this whole thing, this story. People start to ask them all the time, how'd you sleep? And then sleep becomes the bad guy. And everything in their life that's not going well because they're tired and they're irritable and they're, brain foggy and all the things that happen when you don't get good sleep, sleep just becomes this big thing. It becomes, we call it like the monster in the closet. And all the things point back to sleep. And sleep's not the problem. It's actually, sleep is just a result. Sleep is not the problem. It's a result. And it's a result that something in your thinking or something in what you're doing or in your physiology is just out of balance. That's it.
Interesting. Well, I'm lucky I haven't had to deal with that. My husband has, though. Like, we've been married 32 years and literally I go to bed around 9. He goes to bed around 1.
Yeah. He might be a night owl. I mean, so people have different chronotypes. And so some people, it's actually more beneficial for them to go to sleep later. Maybe one's a little bit, even for a night owl, it's a little bit late. But those types of people that are night owls, really, it would benefit them to go to sleep around 12, but then make sure they're getting at least 7 to 8 hours. So their day is going to start late as well, ideally. So everybody is a little bit different. Although if your husband is not going to sleep till 1 because he can't sleep, then that's a different story. That's what we call onset insomnia. And that would be something to definitely have him listen to this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I always tell him to go to bed earlier, because I just believe that it's better for our bodies to go to bed earlier. But then when he tries, he can't go to sleep if it's too early.
Yeah, he might be, honestly, he might be just a night owl. So he might have his chronobiology, his chronotype might be just a little bit of a shifted time schedule. And as long as he's getting enough sleep, it might not be, it's not ideal for a relationship, really. If it's nice to go to bed together and, have intimacy in that way. but honestly, sometimes it's just honoring your body is the best approach when it comes to some of the circadian clock, which is one of the systems that control our physical sleep. Uh,
Yeah. So what do you do? I mean, like, how would a person, like, what do you suggest people to do?
yeah, I mean, well, when we work with clients, it's over 8 weeks, and there's a lot. It's a very
Oh,
comprehensive thing, but some low hanging fruit, and I'll just kind of go 30,000 feet. When we work with somebody, we really look at the psychology, the physiology, and the environment in that order. So first and
okay.
foremost, you want to look at, well, what is the problem? And when I say the problem, I'm not talking about sleep. It's identifying, well, what is it in how you're thinking about, we call it like your sleep story. Like what are the thoughts and beliefs you have about sleep that are not serving you, that are not allowing your body to relax? Are those even true? So we really
Mm,
dive deep into the psychological aspects of what creates this anticipatory anxiety. That's where we start with people. And then we start to give them tools through coaching and through other practices and experiential exercises to understand all that before we move into then looking at the physiology. And the physiology, there's two systems in the body that control sleep. There's the sleep pressure system and the circadian, the biological clock. And there's different techniques and strategies depending on if you have issues staying asleep or getting to sleep in that sort of realm. So there's two types of insomnia. It's onset insomnia, initiating sleep or sleep latency, and then maintenance insomnia, which for people that are able to fall asleep, but they're not able to stay asleep. And so there are different tools and strategies that we use when working with someone with their physiology, depending on what type of insomnia they have. And then the last sort of piece is then looking at, well, how do we reintroduce some good sleep hygiene, which is where most people usually start, but that's really for quality of sleep. It's not for being able to fall asleep and stay asleep. It's more for like, how do I get more deep sleep and REM sleep? And you want to measure everything because you can't manage what you don't measure.
mm.
That's a real important piece. And if you measure it, but you don't know what to do with the information, that actually can make it worse, because now you're getting feedback. Okay, this watch or this ring or this whatever it is that you're using, it's just telling me I'm sleeping. Like, there you go, you have the Aura ring. That's great device. That's what we use at our academy because we find it's most accurate out of all the sleep trackers. But you got to know what to do with it, because if you get this data and it's like, okay, you're not getting enough sleep, you're not getting enough REM sleep, deep sleep, and then you're like, oh well, let me go on the internet, and you start looking up stuff, and then you're like overwhelmed by what to do. So, but if you have that data and you have a proven path and plan, and you're executing in a system, hey, there's a system and a process around it, it's very effective, because then you could see, oh, I made this change, and wow, I was able to get to sleep faster. I was able to sleep longer, and I actually wake up feeling refreshed, and you can see it confirmed in the data.
So
So
do
that's
you
a
wear
lot.
an Aura? Do you wear an Aura ring?
I do. I'm not wearing it now, but I do. I've been wearing it probably for about 4 years, and I do a lot of testing on myself. Even though I don't have sleep issues, I test all kinds of products and things and beds and mattresses, and people send me all kinds of things, um, and it's fun. I have a good time with you know getting that feedback from testing these strategies and tools and techniques.
So what's your average sleep score for yourself personally? Like last night I got a 92.
You know what? Let me check.
That's a good number, right? 92?
92 is impressive. I mean, so really, if you're getting a consistent over 85 as your sleep score, that's considered like a good sleeper. So if you're in the 90s, if you're in the 90s, then Tracy, you are doing fantastic. So just keep doing whatever you're doing. Um, but really, ideally, with their algorithm, that factors in a lot of things to give you your sleep score. If you're over 85 consistently, that's great.
You know what I noticed jacks me up is like if we have a celebration or whatever, if I eat any sugar, like I don't eat
Oh,
sugar, but
yes.
sugar affects my sleep and affects my readiness because of my resting heart rate. Um, and like if I eat a really light dinner, which is my preference, it's better. But if I eat a bigger later dinner, then I'm messed up.
Well, there's real science around why all that you just said. So you don't want to be digesting food when your body's trying to shift into the deeper stages of sleep, which happens in the first quarter of the night. And that delta deep sleep is when the body repairs itself. And most people eat too close to bedtime. And then the body's heating up because it's trying to digest this food. The energy that should be not diverting to the stomach is diverting to the stomach to digest. The blood's going to the stomach, and the blood should be going other places to flush out, the lymph system in the brain, as well as, just to repair and restore all of our cells, that get damaged, free radicals throughout the day. So yeah, so and I'm right there with you. If I have sugar or really alcohol, too close to bed, alcohol is like really bad for sleep. It helps you fall asleep, but it messes up the quality of your sleep. Usually people end up waking up in the middle of the night, and it messes with your body temperature, which is a really important thing to, have be, regulated throughout the night. But it's also alcohol is toxic. It's not the best thing to put in our bodies. But yeah, food and alcohol and sugar. Depending on what type of alcohol you're drinking, some of these alcohol beverages loaded with sugar, right? Especially like the champagnes and things like that. So yeah, that makes perfect sense what you just said. And you wouldn't know that maybe if you didn't have the Oura Ring, which is why, or maybe you would, but it helps kind of confirm your suspicions on, hey, when I do this, this is the result.
Yeah. I also have a grounding mat in my bed.
Oh, wow.
And I have a chili pad, which I love
So
that.
you're full on biohacking over there. That's
Hey.
I love that. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, so the chili pad is, for some people love it, some people don't. But body temperature is a big thing. So if anything that can help you drop your body temperature is definitely going to help your sleep, for sure. And it's great that you're a fan of it. I think it's a good thing, especially for people that sleep hot. Absolutely. Those are levers to pull. There's all kinds of levers you could pull for sleep quality. Um, Temperature, anything that's going to affect your temperature in the right way, meaning it's going to drop your temperature closer to bedtime, is awesome. And that could just be a hot shower. That's what I do a hot shower right before sleep, because it actually pulls heat from the core. And you want your core body temperature to drop. And it needs to drop actually 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit for sleep to actually happen.
That's interesting. So a hot shower makes your body temperature drop? I've never heard that.
Yeah, you would think it would be the opposite, right? You think like, oh, a cold shower. But what happens is, so you take a hot shower, it heats your body up, and you get out, and it's sort of the thermodynamics of your body. It flushes the body, it pulls heat from the core to your extremities, and that actually drops your core body temperature. It helps it facilitate the dropping of your core body temperature.
Interesting. Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's that's just science. It's what happens in the body physiologically. The body needs that 2 to 3 degree drop. So anything that can support that, even a warm bath or a hot bath with some magnesium salt in it, since we're deficient in magnesium, and magnesium is great for, relaxing the muscles, and is a great strategy to help induce that temperature dropping, which absolutely is going to help sleep.
Okay, that's good. I get out of the hot bath and I'm sweating. So
Yeah.
maybe that helps. I'll have to try that and see if that helps. And I will argue that like I drink French or Italian wine, and I had 2 glasses last night and I got that sleep score. So I know that a dry wine is not going to have the same of effect as if I were to have like a margarita, you
Absolutely.
know?
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. And different types of alcohol affect people differently. And it really also comes down to the quality of what you're drinking. I'm a huge fan of a company. It's called Dry Farm Wines. Have you heard of them?
Oh yeah, they came on my show a couple years ago.
Okay. So, I mean, their wine, biodynamic, it's, organic, low in sugar, low in alcohol. And I find when I drink that wine, it doesn't affect my sleep. If
Hmm.
I drink something, even if it's a good wine, like red French wine, that's higher in alcohol and maybe it has pesticides or more whatever in it, my sleep gets affected. So quality definitely also plays a factor in, you know,
Oh
how that
yeah.
it's and a big factor, even the quality of whatever it is you're drinking, whether it be tequila or vodka or whatever. It's like if you're going to drink the highest quality stuff that you possibly can, but preferably not too close to bedtime.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I have a few more questions. So tell me about your book.
Yeah, the sleep advantage. So I wrote that book to be a step-by-step guide for people to improve their sleep because I found that while I was diving into sleep, a lot of the books I was reading were like really scientific. They weren't really tangible. Like one of my favorite sleep books ever is Why We Sleep by Matt Walker. Fantastic book. And I was reading that book, and he does such a good job of laying out why sleep's important and what the negative impacts of sleep are. But I think he missed the part on like telling people, well, what do I actually do to improve my sleep? So I kind of took that aspect of writing that book. How do I just give people what they need in order to start to improve the quality and depth of their sleep? And a little bit of science to support what I'm saying, but mostly it's like, hey, let me just give you here's the blueprint, here's the plan, just follow this and your sleep will improve. And that's why I wrote that book.
Cool. So it's like an easy to read, step by step, just this is what you
Yeah,
need to do. Cool.
yeah, exactly. And I didn't want it to be overly scientific or loaded with stories. There's some stories, there's some science, but mostly it's just like, hey, Devin, tell me what to do. Okay, here's
Nice.
what you do. If you follow this, your sleep's going to be better, and then you're as a result of that, you're going to have an advantage. And that's the whole point of the book. Really, is also to help people see when they prioritize and protect sleep, when they're doing these small things consistently, which impact their sleep, they do have an advantage
Hmm.
in every aspect of their life. Because when you're not sleeping, every aspect of your life is affected.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just think about the importance of the healing of the cells, like you mentioned, and how if your body is not resting, then you're not able to actually heal your body. It's funny, I did an appointment with a spiritual healer yesterday, and he said something that made so much sense, but I never thought about. He said, when you cut your finger, what happens? Well, you put a band-aid on, a couple days later, it's healed. Like your body can heal itself, but it's our fear and doubt and, you know, frustration that actually can prohibit that process. So by thinking about your to-do list or binge watching your next Netflix show, and not sleeping in that good quality sleep, your body's not repairing. So then disease will actually, I'm guessing at all this. Okay. I'm just making this up as I go. But it's like it would more proliferate, right? Because your body's not able to repair the cells.
Yeah, I mean, from a physical standpoint, that's when our cells are repaired. And, most people, sleep is a reflection of your life. It can be often. So if you're sleeping peacefully, usually, you're doing pretty good in your life. If you're having issues with your sleep, there's either something that you need to look at, maybe emotionally or mentally or environmentally. It just, sleep is a reflection or can be a reflection of what's going on in our life. Sometimes we're repressing emotions and suppressing things, or not communicating what we need to be communicating, or, we're eating the wrong foods, and all that's going to show up in your sleep. It's going to show up in the quality and depth of your sleep. So if you're sleeping peacefully and, soundly, and you're waking up refreshed, that is a good sign that what you're doing throughout your day, what you're doing in your relationships and what you're doing with your diet and all that, it's probably a good sign that you're on the right track with, you're doing a pretty good job. But if not, there's something to look at. Something's out of balance. And, what gets suppressed or repressed gets expressed. And it gets expressed in a lot of different ways. And one of the ways it gets expressed is absolutely in challenges, either getting to sleep or staying asleep. And I've seen this after working with really thousands of people. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. And then once you kind of really sort of start to understand that, your sleep changes. And it can happen very, very quickly when you really start to identify, wow, this is something that I just didn't even realize that was contributing to this ongoing, perpetual poor sleep.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually, because then it gives you that that thought rumination, and I love what you said earlier about the mental side. And you said something of, if it's true, like so many times we make up these stories that they're not even true and they don't support us. So if you're going to make up a story, make up something that's going to make you feel good, right?
Absolutely. I say, tell yourself the whole truth. So most people just focus on the negative. And there's something called, I call it like polarity shift, where you take whatever it is you're telling yourself, what's the complete opposite of that? That could be just as true. Now, maybe not in all cases, and maybe it doesn't feel authentic. Like, we do this whole exercise where we have everyone identify the most common thoughts they're telling themselves that aren't useful. And there's like a list of 50 that I've identified over the years, and I have people just circle all the ones because I already know what's going on in their head. And then they realize two things. They realize, first and foremost, those aren't their thoughts, because if they were their thoughts, how would all these other people have the same exact thoughts, and how would I know what they're thinking? So that's like the first revelation. And then it's like, well, is that even true? Or what's the opposite of that? That could be just as true as this. So why, if you're going to focus on this and it's going to create this anxiety and why wouldn't you just shift to the other side of that? And
make up a good story.
Make up a good story. Exactly. And so, because we're just making stories up all the time. That's what we do. That's what humans do all the time.
Yep.
We're storytellers.
And people don't even realize, like, they don't see it, Okay. So I have a couple more questions that are important. So you keep using the word we, and I know you have the Sleep Science Academy. So is there like a whole team working this with you?
Oh yeah. I'm totally supported by an incredible team. So it's not just me. I have a team of coaches and a bunch of other people that support what we do. And actually, one of the things I'm excited about is rolling out a training program for people that want to learn our methodology to teach their clients, whether you're a life coach or a health coach or just want to be a sleep coach. That's something that we're going to be rolling out later this year.
Nice.
So yeah, it's because we know it works and people need it. So we can only help so many people. So it's like, why wouldn't we help other people? And that's really what we're doing. But it's a small team, but it's a great team. Yeah, it's really fun. Well,
it's that teach a man to fish,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, and there's no, the stuff that we teach in our program, it should be in school. It should be, like, this should be just common knowledge, and it's not. And if it was, the world literally would be a better place. And it's not just because I'm so smart, and it's all this stuff that I've studied that I know works, has worked for me. And now, it's just a matter of getting people the information. It's information that I didn't know. I had to go seek it. I had to look for it. And I would love, and that's my goal really, is to get the information to people so they can have the tools to understand, how to shift into a place of acceptance, how to understand their mind, what their mind is, the role that the mind plays in affecting the body. I mean, it's not rocket science. How to actually feel your emotions, right? And allowing yourself to fully feel your emotions, even the ones that you don't want to feel, that most people distract themselves with Netflix and alcohol and all the other things. It's like, no, well, if you just allow yourself just to feel what you need to feel, it's going to move through you, and then it's not going to be this contraction that then shows up in your sleep.
Yeah.
It's like, it really is. It blows me away how a lot of the stuff that is so helpful it's like people just have never came across the information for whatever reason. It's like we learn all this other stuff, but not the stuff that really would help us excel in our relationships and in our health and in our life, unless we really look for it.
Yeah, it's a real head scratcher, right, Devin?
It is. It really is a head scratcher. It doesn't, and unfortunately, people, unless it's really, you have a painful enough problem or painful enough what is perceived as a problem to like then go looking for solution. Oftentimes it's just not in people's awareness. And that's really sad, because it can really, when you start to get some of this information and understand some of these things and have these tools, life is so much easier. It really is. And it's like, it just opens up possibility beyond, what you ever thought was possible for any area of your life.
Well, when you feel better because you have a good night's sleep, you make better choices, which then in turn make you feel better again, right? So it's just perpetuating cycle. You can either, like I love Abraham Hicks, and it's like she says, you're either going to float downstream in the river, you're going to paddle upstream.
Yeah.
One feels really good and one's a lot of work. So
that's it. That's a great analogy. And I think most people are paddling upstream and they're complaining about it. And the victim consciousness and victim mentality, where it's like, poor me, and it just keeps people in these patterns that then it's really, it's just not good.
Well, but sleep's a great place to start, because let's face it, when the first thing you do when you wake up during the day is, wow, I feel really good and rested and ready to take it on, or you're dragging ass. Like my coach this morning was at the gym. He got 2 hours sleep, so he was exhausted. I'll have to tell him to listen to the show. So anyway, okay. So I also want to ask you, where can people find you, like on social media or your website?
Yeah. So on social media, it's my name, Devin Burke Wellness, and YouTube. I put a lot of content on YouTube. Instagram, I'm starting to be a lot more active on social media. It's not really my forte, but now I have a team that can help me with all that. So, and then Sleep Science Academy, for people that have issues with their sleep and, are on the sleeping medications and they believe that they're broken. I mean, that's where, you can learn more about the work that we do there. And and then Audible and Amazon for the book, if people are interested in just kind of learning a little bit more about how to start the process of improving their sleep. That's a great place to start as well.
So the book isn't new, so it's out already and they can just order it right now. Right?
No, it's been out. It was actually, it was a bestseller on Amazon, which I'm super proud about. And then the audio version came out about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago. So the book came out first, then the audio version. So some people don't like to read books. So I recorded a Audible version so people can listen to it while they're at the gym, or they're driving in their car, or mowing the lawn, or whatever people do when they listen to audiobooks. So that's also available for people.
Perfect. And they can get that on Amazon. That is awesome. And then what would be like an empowering tip that you want to leave the audience with today, my dear?
Yeah, I would say this. if you're someone that's struggling with your sleep, the biggest thing you could do is if you're right now, you're struggling with your sleep and you're trying to force or control your sleep in any way, just stop. Literally stop. Because that any type of force or control, that's going to just continue to make sleep worse. And how you do that is, number one, you can get support. Number two, you can shift into just acceptance that, hey, this is where you are. And when you really practice acceptance, your sleep exponentially gets better. So it's really not complicated. It's oftentimes we just need to get this right, and then everything else falls into place. So yeah, but it's don't overcomplicate it. That's another thing. People overcomplicate sleep, and it doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah, indeed. And it's super important. So take it
Yeah,
seriously.
Absolutely. Foundational.
Awesome. Well, Devin, it's been a pleasure. I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show. And I'm happy that you're really pursuing this avenue because, like I said earlier, sleep's so underrated that it's exciting to give people a pathway to follow to just make every day better. That's right.
I'll leave your audience with one quick, easy tip that they can just do tonight. That'll help them.
Cool.
3, 2, 1 sleep. So 3 hours before bed, stop eating. 2 hours before bed, you stop working. And then an hour before bed, that's when you do something relaxing, not so that you will sleep, just to do it, to give your body the opportunity to have sleep happen. Very important distinction. 3, 2, 1 sleep. If you practice 3, 2, 1 sleep, you do that tonight, I guarantee you'll sleep better. And it's so simple. That's it. That's easy, low-hanging fruit. You can just do that tonight.
I love that. And I'm going to add to that, the relaxing thing, it's always helpful if it's not in front of a screen.
Absolutely. 100%. If you can get away from a screen, that would be the best possible thing you could ever do for your sleep. Because not just because of the blue light, but the hyper arousal from the shows and the social media and the emails and the news. Yeah. Read a book, read The Sleep Advantage, or something spiritual, something relaxing, something that'll put you in a positive space to then just drift off and allow your body to do what it knows how to do. Just like your heart beats, your lungs breathe, your nails grow, sleep happens. So just let it happen. Yeah, that's good. I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, my dear. Make it a great day. Thanks. I'll be in touch. Okay. Okay, thank you so much for listening. That was super fun. He is an absolute doll, and I hope you are inspired to at least take a look at his book. And if everything energizes with you, go and sign up so that you can take advantage of his program and get a better night's sleep. I hope you enjoyed the show. We love the listeners, you guys. We absolutely love you. And if you haven't done so already, will you please leave us a rating and review over on iTunes? That way more people can find the show and learn from these amazing guests. Okay, thanks so much, you guys. Make it a great day. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.